Happy holidays, everyone. I'm Agent Ghost, and welcome to the archives. And before we go any further, I just wanted to, say that one-shot pistol builds in general kind of have a special place for me because it was the first type of build I ever kind of fully got together. Now, my first iteration of a one-shot pistol build couldn't take me farther than challenging. This one I've fully put together, and, I have it up to heroic with 4 directives active at a time. But another thing is, at the same time of putting that first build together, I'm using this outfit instead of my normal outfit because it's the first outfit I ever put together. So it's kind of a double nostalgia trip. Anyway, thanks, relax, and enjoy. So without further ado, as promised, here it is, and enjoy. Man, it gets me every time. Oh, yeah. One-shot builds are just awesome. Moving on to the build portion of the video, starting things off with the specialization, I'm using the Technician specialization for the skill tier, as well as the ability to be able to use the Artificer Hive skill. And we'll get more into the skills later, but you have to have Technician in order to be able to use this skill. Moving on to the weapons, the most important weapon of the build, it's a pistol build after all, is the D50, and I use the D50, but you can use like any Magnum or, well, basically Magnum as long as you want, or the D50 as long as it has the Determined talent, and we'll get into that in a second, but it has to have that. We're going to start off with the core attribute. I have mine at 10.8% pistol damage, and then the regular attribute is 7% damage to targets out of cover. You can do damage to armor, but I'd recommend damage to targets out of cover. Now, like I just said, the most important aspect is the talent Determined, which after killing an enemy with a headshot, the next shot landed with an enemy will be a guaranteed headshot. And what that looks like is over here at the target dummy, I'm going to get a kill with a headshot. There we go. And then if I aim for the chest, that counts and applies as a headshot damage. So all the headshot damage I accumulate and get will apply even if I hit them in the body, which makes stacking and keeping Determined up that much easier. Alright, moving on to the next weapon. I use the Nemesis marksman rifle. You can pretty much use whatever marksman rifle you want. If you don't want to use the Nemesis, I recommend the White Death with Determined, but it doesn't have to be that. Just make sure it's a marksman rifle with Determined if you're not going to use the Nemesis Exotic. I recommend the Nemesis Exotic, though, for the talent. But before we get into the talent, I want to let you know, I'm going to leave in the description below a link to a guide on how to obtain this exotic sniper rifle, because it's linked to an exotic quest, so you can't get it until you complete the quest. So that will be down in the description below. But moving on to the talent, the reason why I use this is Electromagnetic Accelerator, which does shots fired deals 0 to 100% weapon damage based on how long the trigger is held before releasing. So if you were to hold down the trigger, I have one of the global directives activated, so I don't have ammo in it, so I can't super show you, but you'll see later on in the footage. But if I were to hold down the trigger, a circle on the outer scope would start to fill up, and once it's fully filled, that means I'm at 100% increased damage, and then I would just release the trigger and it would fire. And I use that mainly for bosses or hard-hitting enemies that I haven't built up all my Headhunter stacks, which is a talent we'll get into in a second on the chest piece. But that's the main purpose, and you'll see it hits very hard in the footage. But moving on to the first gear set, the most important gear set aspect of this build is the Exotic Memento backpack. And the reason why I use this backpack is for a ton of reasons. So get into the first big reason is in the core attributes. For using this backpack, we get one of every core attribute, which is plus 13% weapon damage, plus 146,000 armor, and plus 1 skill tier. And we just get all 3 of those just for equipping the backpack. It's amazing. And then in the mod slot, I have headshot damage, plus 10% mod. You just put in whatever highest headshot damage mod you have. But the other biggest, most important aspect of using this backpack is in the talent, which is kill confirmed. If you ever played the kill confirmed Call of Duty game mode, it's very identical to that type of play style. And what happens when you get kill confirmed is enemies you kill drop a trophy on death. Collecting trophies provides both a short and long-term buff, the first of which scales with a number of core attributes equipped and lasts for 10 seconds, which is plus 5% weapon damage, plus 10% bonus armor, and plus 5% skill efficiency, which is all just great. And those last for 10 seconds. The next part is for every trophy collected, you gain an additional plus 1% weapon damage, plus 1% skill efficiency, and plus 0.1% armor regeneration for 300 seconds, which is just amazing. You can get a maximum of stacks of those of 30. And I would say, honestly, out of all those, the most key important thing with this is the armor regeneration. Now, it won't show a lot when you don't have max stacks, but when you have a set of max stacks of 30 with the armor regeneration, it will be very noticeable watching your armor just regenerate over time and you're behind your huge shield. It's just awesome. So that's why we have the Memento. Moving on to the second most important gear piece of this build is the Chain Killer Walker Harris chest piece. And to start things off with the Walker Harris brand set, it gives you plus 5% weapon damage. In the core attribute, it gives you plus 15% weapon damage. And then in the regular attributes, I have plus 8.3% headshot damage, plus 8% weapon handling, which you can roll that to crit hit chance or damage or kind of whatever you want. But I have weapon handling because that affects, if you look at any of your weapons, right there under weapon handling, it will affect your accuracy, stability, reload time, and damage drop off. And then I have a 9.7% headshot damage mod, which you could have one maxed out to 10%. But the primary reason is for the talent Perfect Headhunter. And after killing an enemy with a headshot, your next weapon hit within 30 seconds deals an additional 150% of that killing blow's damage. Just already crazy. And then the damage is capped to 800% of your damage. However, this is raised to 1,250% if your headshot damage is greater than 150%, which is just amazing. And with this build, we'll have plenty of headshot damage, but to show it off, I'm showing off the pistol because that's the star of the show. I have 203% headshot damage. We'll go over the rest of the stats later, but you know, you only need 150% headshot damage, but anything more is just more damage, which is just crazy. The next piece that we're going to go over is the Punch Drunk Douglas and Harding helmet. And for the brand set, it gives us plus 20% pistol damage, which is just absolutely amazing for any pistol build. And then in the core attribute, you can have it weapon damage, but I have it 100 plus 170% armor core because that affects our shield. And again, we'll go over that in the skills in a little bit, but just know that that affects one of our later abilities. You can actually put this on any other armor piece. It doesn't have to be that, but make sure you have at least one armor core on any piece. Moving on to the rest, it gives you plus 20% headshot damage. Again, very important. Plus 6% crit hit chance, and then I have a plus 10% headshot damage mod rolled into there. Off to the holster. So I use the Providence Defense holster, and for the following reason of the brand set gives us plus 15% headshot damage. Then for the core attribute, I have plus 15% weapon damage, and the regular attribute, I have plus 10% headshot damage, and I have rolled plus 12% crit hit damage there. You can also use, if you want, as an alternative, the Precarious holster, which just pretend that crit hit chance is rolled for headshot damage and have another armor core to again affect our shield. But I've actually found with one armor core and with the Providence Defense holster, it's that perfect sweet spot between having survivability and strong damage. So if you want the exact results that you see, copy and paste, but there's an alternative if you're interested. Moving on to the knee pads, we have the Fox Prayer knee pads, which are best in slot knee pads because of the damage to targets out of cover it gives you. But starting off with the brand set, gives us plus 10% rifle damage, which doesn't affect us because we're not using rifles, we're using marksman rifles. Core attribute is plus 10% weapon damage. The regular attributes, again, the whole reason we're using this is plus 8% damage to targets out of cover. Insane. And then I've rolled plus 10% headshot damage in them. Next is the Contractor's Gloves. And this is best in slot gloves in the game for the damage to armor, but plus 10. But for the brand set, we have plus 10% LMG damage, which is we're not using LMGs, but again the damage to armor. And the core attribute 14.3% weapon damage, and then the regular attributes plus 8% damage to armor and plus 10% headshot damage. Another thing is you can pick these up right now at the clan vendor, so please go pick these up so you don't even have to farm for them. Again, I don't even know if I went over this in my weapons. I think I accidentally skipped it, so sorry. But moving on to the apartment SMG, you can put whatever you want in this secondary, but this is my favorite, like one of my favorite weapons in the entire game. And again, right now at the countdown vendor, you can get this at the countdown vendor, I believe for like 75 countdown currency, and which doesn't take that much time at all. This is a DZ exclusive, like a Dark Zone exclusive weapon, so it is regularly hard to get. So during this week, for the next 5 days, as of today, it is there. So please go pick it up if you're at all interested in this weapon. It's amazing. And the reason why is the talent perfectly measured. The top half of the magazine has 20% rate of fire and minus 27% weapon damage. The bottom half of the magazine has minus 20% rate of fire and 33 total weapon damage, which is just crazy. There are the mods if you whoops, there you go, sorry, want to copy and paste and pause the video. Same thing for the pistol. I use crit hit chance instead of headshot damage because we already have plenty, and just that extra crit hit chance comes in handy. Now for the skills. The Bulwark Ballistic Shield, the beefiest of shields, it's just crazy, and the only drawback is you can only use pistols with it. Again, with a pistol build though, not really much of a drawback. So awesome. So I have mine up to tier 4, again, because of the one armor core. You can put this one into any piece that works best for the pieces you have. And then in the Memento backpack, it gives us one armor core and one skill tier. And then last but not least, again, the Technician specialization gives us a skill tier for just equipping it. So that's why it's at tier 4. And that gives us plus 80% active regeneration, plus 266% shield health, and plus 20% holstered regeneration. There are the mods if you want to copy and paste. And then we have the Artificer Hive, which sends out a micro-electro booster drone that expands themselves to increase allied skills efficiency and refresh their duration periodically. Release a drone whilst holstered. This drone affects only your skills, so you don't even have to throw it out, and as long as it's on your back, it will affect your shield. Like right there with the purple and energy blast it sends out, that means it went out. So what would happen is if my shield took damage there, it would have regenerated a good amount of its health, and it just did it again. So that's how quickly it responds. So you basically, up to like 10 enemies shooting at you, your shield will just take it, and you can just be a walking tank as long as they're in front of you. If they're on the side or behind you, you get pretty nuked, but you can take a lot of punishment. So, but if your shield deactivates or gets taken down from like 20 enemies shooting at you or something like that, then you can always use the cover system, because, you know, that's just always invulnerable. But that's why we're using both these skills. Quick disclaimer though, up in the bottom left next to heroic, I have those are the global directives, and I have all 4 of them active, but you cannot use cool skills with this build, which does, when one skill is activated, the other is put on cooldown. So with this build, especially when I have my shield out, it pops the Artificer Hive, which both of them trigger, and then both skills would be put on cooldown with that. So you have no skills every time you try and activate one between this build. So you can do all the content I've tested thoroughly in the open world up to all 4 of these global directives, but you cannot use cool skills. My one-shot sniper build can use all 5 of them, no problem. But, you know, this is just a different playstyle that allows you to get close and personal to do one-shot headshot damage. So that's the rest of the build. Now moving on to the stats, and then we can move on to the last gameplay footage. So we've already gone over weapon talents. We're going to look at the pistol, because that's the star of the show, which for weapon damage, I have 515,000. PvP, so, and it's not a PvP build, so it doesn't matter. Plus 21% crit hit chance, my mistake. Plus 57% crit hit damage, but the star stat of the show, 203% headshot damage. Then 8% armor damage, and we also have damage to targets out of cover. Then we have 18% reload speed bonus, 8% accuracy, 17.8% stability, 8% weapon swap speed, 8% handling, 20% capacity, and then in the offensive, we have 87.3% all weapon damage bonus. Doesn't matter, not using, but 45.8% pistol damage. Just, love it. Already went over gear talents and brand sets. In the defense, I have 1,081,000 armor. It rounds up in the bottom left there to 1.1 million, but there's the exact number. 307,000 max health, and yeah, pretty much the rest of the stats. That's the build. I hope you enjoy. Happy holidays again. Everyone take care and be safe. Thanks. Before we get to the gameplay, I totally forgot 2 important tips I wanted to go over, and one of them has to do with the global directives. So we went over cool skills earlier, but Pistolerio, I apologize if I butcher that, is annoying to start off with. Not annoying with this build because you have a pistol, but what it does is you start with no ammo, and hostile kills with a sidearm are the only way to get ammo, essentially. And a easy way to get ammo really quick with that active is going to territory control points. There's the icon if you want to know what it looks like, as well as they don't give a lot of experience, but there's a lot of easy enemies to farm, especially with any one-shot build, to get your ammo, as well as since we're using Memento Backpack with this build, it's a great way to get early stacks for your kill confirmed trophies. And once you have enough, your max 30 stacks for a Memento and all the ammo you need for your weapons or you're happy with, then you can like go to a control point, which is great for experience, getting crafting materials and pieces of armor to break down or sell or get, as well as public executions. This is the most efficient way in the entire game to get experience and levels, just because you can clear it so quickly with one-shot builds. But yeah, that's just a quick tip. Now we're going to move on to 2 gameplay tips. One is territory control footage, and one is public execution. Both of them are unedited, just to show you how quickly you can clear them with this build. Thanks.
power.